this is Michael.
Welcome to another episode of Ray's Economics Clue Book. Today, we're talking about consumer choice and utility maximization. So look at a more individualized perspective now.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, let's look at what utility and consumer choice means. So utility is basically the satisfaction or the benefit. Inherent benefit is relative speaking, but if we were to measure it objectively in economic terms, it would be called utility, that a consumer gets from purchasing a good or service or acquiring it. And basically, if we look at a single good, basically utility or the benefit you get from it, benefit is what you define it as and what we measure it as a unit of utility in economics. We see that there is a general trend of utility over consumption. And so we see utility y-axis and numbers of pizza, the pizza are good in this case, and the x-axis, and utility we measure in utils, so like 10 utils, 20 utils, 30 utils, utility or benefit for you. We see that marginal utility usually decreases after the first purchase. And so what this means is after the first purchase, the first purchase brings you 30 utils of utility. And then after that, each purchase's marginal utility decreases. And so which means that they bring you less and less positive benefit per purchase until it reaches 0 or even negative, depending on the amount of pizzas you buy. For instance, if you buy one pizza, you get 30 utils. If you buy two pizzas, your total utility is now at 50, but your marginal utility is now only at about 20. So you only get the second piece of pizza alone only gives you 20 utils, and so on, until eventually, once you buy 5 pizzas, that's the last pizza that actually brings you any net benefit. And then the 6th pizza actually decreases your overall utility, which means marginal utility is negative, which means that even the 6th pizza is too much for you. You're too full probably, or you're too sick of it, and you're not benefiting from it. You're actually getting worse off by eating and purchasing and consuming that 6th pizza. So here, number of pizzas, as you increase your number of pizzas purchased, your marginal utility decreases.
Basically marginal utility means basically the incremental, right? Incremental utility or incremental satisfaction, that you consume one additional piece of pizza. So I think the marginal concept is very important because particularly in microeconomics, we're going to talk about marginal benefit, marginal cost in the future videos, but I want you guys to pay attention. Marginal is marginal utility, marginal cost, etc. They are very important economic concepts.
So the marginal utility for a certain number of slices of pizza, for like the 5th slice of pizza, for instance, is basically the amount that the utility changes from that additional slice.
So we call that
incremental slice.
It's more like marginal means incremental change, right? So we can actually see when the marginal benefit is from the 4th to 5th, we get to the total, utility, the maximum total utility, right? So if we consume the 6th pizza, it's probably already negative.
So we see here the purple is basically the overall utility, and the yellow is basically the change in overall utility per additional slice of pizza. And so we look at utility, but we see often we don't have just one good to buy, one service to buy. We have 2 or more different good or services to choose from.
Absolutely.
And we get marginal utility or utility from both goods or services, or in this case, we just look at two choices. So we can get marginal utility from both choices, but we also have to pay a certain price for both either choice. And we have a limited budget. We don't have an infinite budget.
Income limit.
And so because of that, because our resources are scarce, we have to make decisions. And decisions, how the consumer makes decisions is based off of the utility maximizing rule and theoretical economics, which basically states that the optimal decision to make with a certain budget and choosing between 2 different good or services that provide different amounts of marginal utility to you is the marginal utility for a certain unit of a good over the price of that unit of a good over the marginal utility of another unit of other good over the price of the other good have to be equal, and then this will be the right exact combination to purchase between 2 goods on based on your budget. And we'll see what exactly that means more clearly past the raw equation in the next slide, looking at an example. But we see here basically if you're looking at good X and the marginal utility per price of good X is larger than marginal utility per price of good Y, that means that you need to buy more of good X in this case.
Apparently, because it's actually the consumer choice is pretty simple to maximize total utility. To maximize total utility, then this utility maximize rule means actually each dollar to purchase for each dollar, the incremental utility for product X must equal to incremental utility for product Y.
And so
that's we say. That's why we have to divide by PX and PY because we have an income limit, and we want to make sure that each additional $1, can generate the same marginal utility, no matter we pick X or Y.
And so building off this law, we see here that on the converse, if the marginal utility per dollar for X is lower than the marginal utility per dollar of Y, then you need to buy more of Y. As Michael mentioned, this is basically, the rule is basically the marginal utility per dollar of both goods must be equal, and the combination of goods you're buying with your certain budget for it to be an optimal combination of the two goods that you're choosing from. And so, logically speaking, if we see the marginal utility per price of one good is greater than the other good, which means that it means that one good where you're getting more marginal utility per price is more efficient to your overall utility, and so you should buy more of that until it does not become more efficient anymore, and so you're using up that efficiency.
Yeah, just think about that like a dollar purchase power.
Yeah.
In terms of utility, okay, dollar purchase power must be the same across each different product.
For a real example, let's say classic example: apples and oranges. So let's say your income, your budget right now is $10, and you have to choose between how many apples and how many oranges to buy. What combination of apples and oranges you should buy? And apples are $1 per apple, and oranges are $2 per orange. And so first, we look at the marginal utility. Theoretically, you would get per purchase of apples. So the first purchase would bring you 10 utils, the second would bring you an additional 8 utils, and then the third would bring you 7, 4, 6, 5, 6, 4, 7, 3, and so on. And so for oranges, the first purchase would bring you 24 utils, the second purchase would bring you 20 utils, additional 20 utils, on top of 24 utils, the third would bring you 18 utils, and then the fourth, 16th, and then so on. And then we compare that to the price per good. So for apples,
per dollar.
Basically, we're looking at the marginal utility per dollar for each number of apples you could buy. For one apple, it would be 10 marginal utils per $1, so it would be 10 marginal utils per dollar. For the second apple, you get additional 8 utils, and so over an additional dollar spent on the second apple, so that would be 8 marginal utils per dollar, and then 7 marginal utils per dollar for the third, and then so on. And for oranges, basically, for the first orange, you get 24 marginal utils, but you pay $2 for that, so it's 12 marginal utils per dollar. The second apple, the second orange, you pay another $2, but then you only get 20 marginal utils, so it's 10 marginal utils overall per dollar. And so basically, we buy enough apples and enough oranges until their marginal utilities per dollars are equal. Which means if we buy 2 apples, that marginal utilities per dollar that marginal utility per dollar for the 2 apples is 8. If we buy 4 oranges, if we buy 4 oranges, that marginal utility per dollar is also 8, which means the optimal combination, because these two, the 8 and 8, they're now equal. The marginal utilities per dollar for both goods are now equal. The optimal combination to buy with $10 budget would be 2 apples and 4 oranges, which would be the optimal combination of 2 goods to buy per $10 budget.
Because in this case, we actually, if we look at it, we can put just 1 apple and 2 orange, because it's 10 and 10, right? But we have income $10. So we can buy more. So although 10 equals 10 right here, we don't really stop here. We have to look at 8 equals 8, and so that we can maximize the usage of our available income. Okay.
Because as Michael mentioned, if we only look at 10 and 10 here, we buy 1 apple and 2 oranges. We still have income left over, which is inefficient because we could buy more of one or both goods.
Remember, the consumer choice is pretty simple. Maximize
and we should always be buying more as long as our marginal utility is positive, basically.
With the income restriction. Again, here we can see, actually, the rule is pretty simple. The dollar purchase power in terms of marginal utility must be the same across each different product.
And so for our final clues, consumer choice is basically about maximizing total utility by buying within your budget with positive marginal utility. And so marginal utility per dollar is key when comparing goods that you should buy in a combination. And so basically, if we look at marginal benefit, marginal cost, marginal effect, the marginal analysis is very important in economics theory. As Michael mentioned, microeconomics, looking at individual firms, individual consumers, analyzing marginal effects is very important to decide how a business should theoretically behave or how consumers should theoretically behave, because this is how it would most logically happen, and more as an economic term, most rationally happen. And so from that, we see graphics are very important to look at this, because we see here from this graphic about consumer choice utility, we see a very good idea of what exactly marginal utility is and how it works, because we see marginal utility is decreasing while the rate that the consumer overall utility is increasing is decreasing at the same time. So,
the total utility is increased, but it's increasing in a decreasing speed.
It's increasing at a slower rate, and that
Yeah.
slower rate is represented by the decreasing marginal utility per additional pizza bot. And so
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Yeah, so the graphics is always very important. As Ray just mentioned, that we're going to talk about marginal, concept in the future videos, because they are really important. I would say the number one important concept in microeconomics. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.